What do you think is an easy way to get into more cold exposure? Because not everybody is going to have an access to an ice bath every day.
As soon as the water after your shower is like 18 degrees Celsius or less, there are many studies that show that this like triggers strong vasoconstriction and strong release of dopamine, and it's a good shock for your cardiovascular system. I would say 30 seconds of cold shower at the end or a whole cold shower is okay. Down regulate your breathing as well, long exhalation, and you will have like a decent shock that will give you all the benefits of energy, dopamine, and all this stuff.
In today's podcast, I'm going to introduce you to someone that has actually had a really great influence in my biohacking journey. Back when I was a lawyer and when I burnt out, I didn't do much of cold or hot exposure. I very much like to live and work in very comfortable temperature and really loved my AC and didn't venture much outdoors, didn't face much cold climate, and certainly didn't face many heat exposures, or at least not intentionally. But thanks to my training with JP over the years, I have learned the benefits of cold exposure. And today I'm delighted to introduce you to someone that I've met through my travels in Mexico, with whom I've done ice bath and Temazcal ceremony. And you will learn all about it during this show. JP has not only been my Wim Hof instructor, but he's also very humble, and he's transformed his life from being an engineer to becoming a professional Wim Hof instructor. And he has since trained over 10,000 people and professionals worldwide to brave the cold and to initiate them into their very first ice bath. Today, you will hear his story, his journeys, also how he met Wim Hof and the advice that he had from Wim Hof himself. I hope that you will enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to the Charles and Giselle Show. I am delighted to introduce you to my guest of honor today, JP, Juan Pablo, all the way from Mexico, who was my Wim Hof instructor and has educated me and initiated me to the love of ice bath. And I'm thrilled to introduce him to you today. JP, welcome to the Charles and Giselle Show.
Thank you, Charlene. Good to see you. And yes, I have a really great memories of that 2020 January, right?
Yeah.
In San Miguel de Allende, in a Live Beyond retreat, and we had so much fun over there. And a small crew, like very, very contained, and beautiful connections like took place over there.
It was so special. And I remember being quite intimidated at first to do the first ice bath. There is something a little, overwhelming about the thought that you're going to put yourself in ice. And I remember you brought those really big ice cubes as well, and you kept checking the temperature. And I just thought, okay, this is actual ice water. This is a little bit more daunting than I thought at first. It was the first time. I had never done it before. And you made it super special for us. So thank you.
That's my specialty, like make it special. That first time in an ice bath, it should be special, like smooth and with a good understanding. So
it's an initiation, isn't it?
It's an initiation. It's getting trendier and mainstream, but there are so many things behind the ice bath that nowadays I always say, like, it's not about the ice bath. The ice bath is the last thing. But it's like it's more like an internal shock to all of your systems that are like moved into an extremity, and then how to navigate the extremity and then get back into balance, and in heat and in your mind and in your breath and in everything in life that is happening to you. So it's a very profound experience when it's done in a safe way with a good understanding, and it's very transformational too. I love it. Is the way I started into this world, into this world of biohacking, into wellness and all that stuff. And happy to talk more about it.
Yeah, I would love to. So perhaps let's start about your journey. How did you fall in love with the ice?
Fall in love with the ice. Well, it was once I go back into all the moments in my life, it was actually before Lyme disease triggered inside of me. Now I see it more as a mountain story, as a hike story, because I have a strong connection with mountains. I do mountain biking, like big hikes, like high altitude hikes in Mexico. We have like super like tall volcanoes above 5,000 meters high. And I went there with my friends in 2016 to do the biggest one. It's called Pico Orizaba. It's the third peak in North America. And I couldn't reach the top. It was like we were like 200 meters of elevation gain short, about 8 hours of suffocation and headaches and high altitude disease and all that stuff. And then we needed to go down, and at that moment of my life, I was practicing a lot of sports. I say to myself that I was a high performer athlete, and the mountain told me you aren't, right? So put your ego down a bit and do a little reflection of what had happened. And a couple of months later, I got bitten by a tick, right? And ticks transfer pathogens. I have a very different perspective now that I had at the beginning, right? Because the standard story we heard about it is like ticks transmit diseases, right? And that's something I followed for a year or so, or more than a year. Now I understand that ticks just transfer pathogens they have in their bloodstream that have gathered around all the animals. They suck blood, right? And if that tick is like pressed like incorrectly, when you get it out of your body, you transfer all that blood, right? So that happened to me. And the immune system, of course, reacts to this new information that I see in the body. In that moment of my life, again, now I understand that my body was unbalanced and full of toxicity, and the response of my immune system was inefficient. What is inefficiency? Inflammation all around the body. Your body cannot go back into balance. Normally, the human body is a perfect machine. It's just beautiful. And this didn't stop. So of course I went to see experts for them to guide me into this journey. They put me on meds, 9 different medications, antibiotics, of course, and I just follow those orders. And they told me this is the way to heal. We've done this for more than 30 years. This is California, U.S. doctors, the best in California, and of course, like all of these medicines also trigger some other secondary effects. And there was a moment, a couple of weeks while taking these medicines, that I had a purge. I had an immune overreaction. I had a stomach ache, and then I kind of vomit, and then had diarrhea, and then sweat cold, and all the symptoms triggered insanely. And then I was like, I might die, and I say to myself, it's okay to die. It's okay to get out of this human experience. And I start being thankful for all the great stuff that I had the opportunity to live and share and experience in a way, and I start crying, and then I randomly, suddenly, I went to sleep, and the day after, I woke up alive, and I say, "Damn, I didn't die. What's next?" And this is the worst morning ever in my life. I was with a lot of pain, a lot of headaches, and I couldn't move. But I say, okay, Juan Pablo, this is a moment for you to take on this thing. Everything that is inside of your body. You visited so many experts that are guiding you, and now it's time to reflect on what had happened and understand where are you standing, right? My background as well, my professional background is engineering, like consultancy, management consultancy, and launching startups, tech startups all around Mexico, creating things from scratch, designing very complicated solutions, systemic problems, and just address them with with plants and tools and team and humans, to make stuff happen or fix stuff. And I was really good doing that outside of me, but never inside of me, right? This is something that happened to many of the modern humans around the globe. We are super smart on many things, but we never look inside. And this was the time for me to start looking inside, to understanding what was happening, how these bacteria and parasites like trigger inside my body, how they move, they nurture itself, and what activities in my day-to-day basis I was doing that could make the disease going bigger, or the state of imbalance going bigger, or helping my body to getting back into balance. So that was my first change of perspective, right? I was like, I am not sick. My body is on balance. It doesn't have the matter that the body needs to get back into balance. So I need to do changes, right? And with my engineering perspective, that you have inputs of like whatever variables you have, and then you have processes. You have a process, and then you have an outcome. And in that process, you can like manipulate a lot of variables. So this was my perspective. That the new perspective, how I approached the situation, and this is the way I took back control and power that I was giving away to everyone that I was seeing. Like the doctor says, like, do this, I will do it because he's the expert. But that's giving a lot of power to certain expert, right? So, and I need to make a little pause on this. I feel like very fortunate as well for being able to reach like experts and these people that study like for decades sometimes to be in service, and without them I wouldn't be here, like because I was about to die sometimes. But it's also very important to understand that every human have the power to do things and change things, and the responsibility of taking action, right? And that was something I wasn't doing in the first couple of months when I was in an unbalanced state. And when I understood that, I put everything together, made a plan, and then start putting a lot of practices together on my day-to-day basis to get my body back into balance. What I did, well, one of the first things I did was I saw a documentary of Wim Hof Method, the famous Vice documentary. If you are listening to this and you've done ice bath and breathwork, please watch that 40 minutes documentary, because that was a thing that made me think about what I was feeling. And I started practicing the breathwork, the cold showers, and then the ice bath. And on my first ice bath experience was something like a very strong moment in my body, in my mind, that kind of shocked everything and awakened something inside of me that gave me hope and energy and understanding of what was happening next, right? And basically that first ice bath, I was like preparing for for 7 weeks or so, doing the breath work every day, taking cold showers and gradually exposing myself to cold. And then I jump into an ice bath. And it was a beautiful one because it was an online course, right? there were instructors in Mexico at that time. It was 2017. There was no one guiding ice bath at that moment too. So I just put like 10 bags of ice in my bath and jump in and try to control my breathing. And the first couple of seconds, the first 20 minutes, your body adapts, right? I got that understanding that my body was adapting, and you need to kind of control your breathing and stuff. And suddenly, I went into a very relaxed state in the ice, and like a kind of a meditative state. Like I went very inwards, and I closed my eyes, and I started feeling like the cold in my body as I never felt it before. I was very aware of my whole body, my extremities, my breathing, and this is the first time I started like talking to my body, being a super rational mind and analytical and engineering and stuff, like you never talk to your body. You think like this is bullshit, right? And I was that guy. So when I was in the tough, I say like, okay, buddy, we're in this together, and we're going to get out of this state as soon as we can. Not for years. This is what the Western medical like doctors say. Like you're gonna be 4 years on meds. We're gonna do it shorter. We're on this together. And I started crying and I started like shouting and it went into a very euphoric state. And my friend tells me he was kind of guiding me, you know. He was like, man, you're shaking, get out, you know. And I say like, how much time I've been here? Like 20 minutes. And I was okay, so let's get out. It's been a lot. And I kept shivering for I don't know, like 2 hours or so, you know. Then we read the manual, and it was 2 minutes only. So we did it wrong. We did it wrong the first one. This is something that happens when you take a lot of online courses.
So not to our audience, do not do that.
No, don't do that. Yeah. Never go for more than 2 to 3 minutes. It depends on how cold it's outside too. The most important thing of an ice bath is you do it in a very controlled way, I would say. You jump into extreme and then get out and get back your heat. You need to move your body and get back into balance. This is called hormetic stress, hormesis. I'm sure your listeners know about this, but at that moment I didn't know anything about it, so I just did it to heal, and it really helped me. You know, that day I was like a different human, you know, in a way, and I slept like never before in my journey. And the day after, I woke up with a different mindset. I did this, you know. I thought I couldn't do it, and if I'd done this, I could do much more. And I'm gonna get out of this thing in a couple of months. I would say total year of medicines. I was back. I was back with more energies than ever before, with much strength, you know, like slimmer, you know, and with a different sort of habits too, you know. My nutrition changed. I was very aware of exposing myself to the sun, you know, in the first hour of the morning. I went very deep into grounding as well. I ground my bed, I ground my desk, I ground my shoes, you know, and I start understanding that when you go back into nature, or you modulate the nature around you, this is biohacking. This is the best way to give your body the tools to be in constant balance, or as much balance as possible. Because of course, life it's about getting out of balance and get back, you know. But yeah, that's more or less the journey. And now I'm doing this, you know, for kind of a living, you know, for teaching others how to be in balance, how to be more present, how to use their body tools for their good and for the good of others too. You need to be good with yourself to be in service in any kind of activity we are doing in our day to day. We are all on service. If you think you aren't, you are on service on every interaction you have with every human. So yes, that's how it started. Now we're here.
Walking us through your journey, and you spoke about hormetic stress, and I think it would be actually really key for us to dive deeper into that, and maybe for our audience that is not familiar with that kind of stress, because there is a tendency, especially in the corporate world, to say stress is all bad, right? When we think about chronic stress, we think about anxiety, but perhaps you could tell us about the good kind of stress, which is the stress you're talking about.
Yeah, totally. So it's very simple. I always like to make examples, like easy to understand examples. And I know like alcohol is not a good example, but it's also a kind of hormetic stress. If you drink a glass of wine, not very close to sleeping time, you know, with good food in your stomach, it's a toxicity that will get into your body. Your body will respond, you know, and somehow you're going to get back into balance. You know, a glass of wine won't cause you harm, you know, and even the Frenchies are, I believe you still have the best cardiovascular system in the world, right?
Yeah, I think we do. And we do love our wine.
Of the Mediterranean diet. You have a really good diet. You have like a lot of veggies on your diet, and you also drink wine, but in small doses. But if you drink 4 glasses of wine, that's totally different. That's like a toxic stress. It's not hormetic stress. But this applies for everything too. Like if you go and run 10K without training, you will harm your legs. If you go and lift weights, like something that you aren't prepared for, you're gonna harm your muscles too. If you overwork, like working and concentrating and using your creative mind, it's important. But if you overuse it, you are also going into that toxic phase of stress. And when we are too much in that side of overstress, the body gets depleted of the things that we use to get back into balance. And this is when disease triggers. At the very beginning of the interview, I was saying that I have a different perspective of disease. And now I see the tick bite as the drop of water that just explode the glass of my toxicity, and my body didn't have the way to get back into balance. So it wasn't the tick bite, it was myself for many years of toxic habits of partying and working and traveling and not taking time for myself to be in peace, to kind of slow down a bit and work in good habits that made my body go back into balance as soon as possible in every situation I am.
Yes.
And now I'm very aware of that and understanding that life is about like experiencing and pushing ourselves to achieve stuff, and sometimes we are like ambitious, and we want to launch a certain project, and that will require a lot of focus and time and energy, and it's okay for a couple of weeks, sometimes for a couple of months. But during those strong weeks and months, you also need to kind of down regulate, right? And when you finish that, you need to kind of break and then get your body back. And the best and the ideal word is do that on a daily basis, so you can be with more focus and cognitive skills to achieve the things, and also not finishing depleted, right? And so yeah, so that's hormetic stress. Stress is good in small doses. It's good to give a lot of hermetic stress and different experiences to our mind and bodies, so we can expand our capacities in a way, and but being aware of the stress we are experiencing. I always make these pauses every day, every week, every month. I kind of go back and say how stressed I was in the last period, and this is the way I plan my next week or my next month. Sometimes life throws me a lot of events and traveling. Then the week after, I do massages and yoga and not too much like high energy stuff. So that's for me the best way to deal with the hurry and fastest modern world we are all experiencing. And I have some news: it won't get back as it was before. So we need to change our habits, right?
That is truly what attracted me most to the ice bath at first, is that notion that you are semi forced to slow down. It's one of those very rare occasions in life where you technically are not doing something. Well, you are, you're in the ice, but as you said, it's you and your body, and you actually have to be super present and focus on your breath and be in the moment. And what I noticed, and I would love for you to tell me if that's the case with our other clients. When I was in the ice, I can promise you that I wasn't thinking about my past and I wasn't thinking about my future. I wasn't thinking about stress from work. I was just looking to survive. Right? In that
Yeah.
moment, you're actually so deeply connected to your senses and sensations and feeling. And I think when we spend so much time in our mind, intellectualizing, worrying, ruminating, future pacing, it can be deeply healing to be out of our heads and into our body. And to then get this kind of cognitive boost, you get a little bit of a high afterwards, right? You get this kind of surge of energy and clarity, and your mind also feels very sharp. So there is some cognitive benefit to the ice bath.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, it's very funny, because I've done this for many years already, probably more than 5 in a professional way. The other day I was making numbers, and it's probably around 10,000 people that I guided through these kind of experiences. And this is very important to mention, for anyone that hasn't done it yet, or liked it as well. I strongly suggest to attend like a Wim Hof Method workshop with a certified instructor, because we have like processes to make it safe, and to make people understand what it happens in the body and in the breath and in the cold, and in how our body naturally adapts, but how we can also regulate our breathing and relax our muscles. This is the most important thing, like relax, so warm blood can flow from our extremities to the core in a decent way. If you kind of fuck the ice, and if you contract your hands and your muscles, that blood, that life won't flow through your body. You're gonna obstruct like the changes that your body naturally does. And when you understand this, it has many metaphors, right? Of how modern humans are always like on constant fight, on constant like pushing, and we never stop, and we never let things flow in a way, or life flow in a way. And this is one of the most tiniest practices, because it takes around 2 to 3 minutes in a nice lot practice. That pause, that presence of feeling the body, and a lot of things like move completely in your brain, in your cardiovascular system. And then you find like peace, like a kind of peace you will never find in anywhere. This is something I've seen many, in probably hundreds of people that attend workshops or go into this one of these experiences, that their eyes, like I always teach this with the eyes closed. I need to make a pause here. Never film it. I know it's cool to film it. I know it's cool to show off a bit, and modern humans want everything filmed. You go into a concert and you see thousands of phones like over there, and the first time should be experienced with the eyes closed, and your whole focus needs to be in your body, not in a camera, and no people talking. This is something that I see a lot. That's my recommendations, of course, of many years of teaching this. And going back into what I was saying, is that I've seen people with their eyes closed, but I see the rapid eye movement, the REM waves, in the brain. When your eyes moves like this, it's because you are in a kind of a meditative state, into a parasympathetic state, into a relaxed state inside of an ice bath, inside of a super stress cold, that you think like, how is that possible? How am I going to be relaxed in stress, right? So that, of course, is one of the biggest metaphors of knowing how to do an ice bath, and getting into that moment, and how you transfer that into your day to day. How you understand that you have a lot of control of any situation that happens in life. Probably you are in a very stressful place, and you just like down regulate your breathing, and then you can like be super calm in a super stressful environment, in work, in any situation, And also there are some side effects, some good side effects or afterwards effects, that you get a lot of dopamine in your body, a lot of focus hormones, and you feel like with happy hormones inside your body, you feel high, you feel excited, and you feel good about it. Also, there are some anti-inflammatory proteins running through your body and all that stuff. But yeah, so something I would like to add that this is super important. People that haven't done it yet and are listening to this, and they say, I am not good at this, I won't never do it. because it's bad for the body. I can get sick. The I can get sick sentences from the people who took care of you. And it's true, like cold for many minutes, it could get you sick because you're going out of the boundary of hormetic stress. But if it's done like for a couple of minutes in a smooth and safe way, it's super good. So this is the thing. In the previous years, I've done it for companies, right? For teams of 40 people, of 100 people.
Cooperation.
And this
Yes.
is a forced activity, right? Like this is something that the CEO or the director say, like, I want to put my team in an ice bath. So these brains, these human minds aren't like prepared for it, or they are not willing to do this. So after I do a journey of many hours, of teaching and explaining with graphs what happens in the body and the breath and the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic, the breathing, how it's all connected, I give back confidence to all the participants to do it in a safe way. And I've seen 40 humans, forced activity for them, all the 40 humans doing it without getting out in a relaxed way, 100% of success rate, And when I see that, I say, like, everyone can do this, like at the beginning I was like, no, there are some humans that cannot do this, it could be too much for them. But if you follow a good process, I can tell now that almost like 100% of humans can do this, unless you have a super cardiovascular issue and you're facing something very, very hardcore and your body's already super stressed. You need to take it slow, but the vast majority of humans can do this. We are somehow designed to cross cold rivers. When we were nomads, we were moving and crossing cold rivers. As a horse do it, as a cow do it, as a wolf do it. It's the same cardiovascular system, the same design, but we are not using it. We are just like modern humans in constant comfort. So there are ways to reactivate those capabilities, and when you understand all that capacities and that the way to adapt that you have for this, and you can transfer into your day to day, So it's beautiful. It's beautiful to see people overcoming this fear of cold and using it into their day to day.
Could we talk about the connection between the cold and the importance of the breath?
Yeah, totally. This is probably the key to experience a transformative ice bath. So again, one of the first rules for me is not to fight the cold. If you try to fight the cold by contracting your muscles, or if you are thinking that this is too much for you, or if you are breathing too fast, breathing fast is a sympathetic reaction. If you breathe, uh, you are getting into sympathetic state, into fight or flight, into alert, into I am in risk. I don't like to say survive anymore. I don't like that word, survival state. Like normal humans aren't in survival state, anymore. We have so many things controlled, but we get into an alert state, into something is very strong, But something that Wim Hof, the great teacher I had the opportunity to get to know, is that breath is our key into our nervous system, into our autonomous between how do you say this, between
The branches of our autonomous nervous system. Yes.
between branches. It's not autonomous in a way. It has so many functions that are thousands or millions of functions that are autonomous. But the only one we can regulate is breathing. And if we down regulate the rhythm, the frequency of breathing, if we jump into an ice bath and we suddenly are like into this pattern of breathing, we can do something like making longer exhalations. And if you keep going, you're gonna end up into a into a, I don't know, 2 or 3 seconds inhale and 10-second exhalation, And when you do this longer exhalation, you are basically getting into the parasympathetic state. If the is the biggest percentage of your breathing is exhalation or hold or breath holds, you are relaxing your body, you are relaxing your brain, you are relaxing all of your machine. And this is super important because this is a way to get out of that alert state when you first jump into the ice. When this is like properly teach in a way, and you do all the processes, this don't happen that much. I would say probably in 10% of the participants, they go into a very high frequency of breathing, and they just down regulate by doing these long exhalations. And this is something that we can move into our day to day too. I catch myself a lot, even if I'm super aware and I know all this stuff about breathing. Sometimes I'm breathing through my mouth while I'm working or while I'm moving or while I'm cooking, because I need to do this like in a very fast. I need to get out of my house at a certain moment, and I'm just like moving, and I become unconscious, and I open my mouth, and I just like, okay, I just noticed that. I breathe through my nose and exhale through my nose too in a very decent way. And I just get out of that reaction. Longer exhalations can get you out of any situation.
I agree.
I had the opportunity to guide so many people that they are like in planes as well. This has happened to me in a plane that had like a panic attack, because of whatever trauma or whatever program they were following. I just like follow my hand, like exhale a bit longer. Like less than 2 minutes, that human was like just back into balance, and this is why breath work is important, like breath work is the source of life. Is I'd say that is our last connection to nature, to real nature, breathing, right? Because we are eating so many food from all the around, like even if we eat organic beef from Ireland, it's like it's from an island, you aren't from there, or the worst is like eating organic bananas from Costa Rica in Europe. It's like, come on. So water as well. Water is in bottles, in pipes, and in everything is not alive than the water in a way. But breathing, if you don't live in a very polluted city, you're breathing the oxygen that is coming from the airs around you. If you live close to the beach, you're breathing the oxygen that is coming from directly from the ocean. And that's the main source of energy our cells have to make their functions and to make this human machine experience life in a way, so yeah, breathing is more important than eating well and drinking water for me.
Yes. And JV, I remember how transformative was your breath work, and it really helped me a lot with my first ice bath, and I still practice it now when I go into the ice. I was wondering if maybe we could breathe together. You could take us through like a little minute of breath work so that
Yeah.
our audience can
Yes, of course.
yeah.
I need to say this: if you are like driving or if you are in an unsafe place where you can lose like perception of time or something, you need to be in a very like relaxed state or place that if you lose, this won't happen in a minute like breath work, but if you do this kind of breathing while driving or close to water or something, but where you lose like consciousness for 1 or 2 seconds, like something can happen to you, don't do it, right? Don't do it while driving. And it's very simple, like the Wim Hof breathing is the best way to learn it when you haven't done this is breathing through the nose and exhale through the mouth. And when you breathe through the nose, you need to become aware of where this air is getting in, and understanding that we move muscles like the diaphragm that is below our lungs, above our digestive system, and we move our intercostal muscles, the meat that is that is like between our ribs. That's intercostal muscles. So we move muscles to breathe in and to to create space in our lungs, to expand our lungs. And then when we exhale, we also contract those muscles, right? And the diaphragm is huge. The diaphragm is a very thin layer that is like a parachute, that moves up and down. It's a muscle we don't see. It's a muscle we don't train, because people go into the gym and say, like, I want to look strong in my biceps and stuff like that. And your diaphragm is the muscle that moves the most. It's like 20,000 times a day. So this is why it's important to incorporate some breathing practices in your day-to-day, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, And the Wim Hof breathing is a very powerful one. There are so many breathing techniques, but I really like this one because it was the one that taught me that breathing has a superpower that can trigger inside of anyone. So pregnant women shouldn't practice. And also, if you have epileptic attacks, you shouldn't practice this too, because it can trigger an epileptic attack. And any cardiovascular disease, like super strong one, shouldn't practice too. And besides that, anyone else can do this. And it's very simple. It's breathe through the nose and exhale through the mouth. You breathe in through the nose, something like this. Open your mouth and exhale. And your next breathe in, just feel everything in your belly, in your chest. Like, try to expand at your maximum range and exhale. And again. Open your mouth and exhale. And again. Trying to be aware in your inhalation and to expand your belly, your chest. Exhale and relax. And again. And while every breath you take in, keep breathing. You're going to expand more and more and more, and exhale and make a noise if possible. And breathe in again. And exhale. 3 more. Full in. Accept every sensation that triggers is temporary. Again. Last one. Full in. Exhale. And hold your breath and close your eyes for a couple of seconds. And feel that peace and that pause in your body. And if the urge to breathe in comes in, just take a full inhalation. We're going to do it in 3, 2, 1. Full in. Hold it at the top for a couple of seconds. Feel the difference between the last breath hold and this one. And exhale and let go. And that's it. Right. And of course, like, this was a short round. You normally do 3 to 4. I always do 4 in the morning. I stretch my body, like 5-minute stretch, and then I breathe in for 15 minutes, more or less, 4 rounds. And you can also download the Wim Hof Method app, wimhofmethod.com. You can download the app.
Yeah.
On my Instagram as well, I have Spanish, like, guided breathwork in SoundCloud. It's El Señor de los Hielos, ELSERDELOSHIELOS, El Señor de los Hielos, Lord of the Ice in Spanish. And I have a SoundCloud thing that you can also follow with electronic music, because I love electronic music and raving and all that stuff. So even if you don't speak Spanish, you will understand the patterns and the breath calls and all that stuff. And yes, like, practicing this kind of breath work in a very gentle way will help you to train your breathing muscles, to expand your lung capacity, and to feel good, to have a pause to meditate to. After doing 3 to 4 rounds, you can meditate very deeply, deeper than an hour meditation sometimes. Very hardcore meditators always tells me, like, man, I got into a meditative state that I normally take an hour, and after 15 minutes, I was there like seeing fractals and seeing other entities and stuff like that. So it's a great way to start meditating if you don't do it. Just close your eyes and breathe deep and exhale slow, and it's super powerful. It will give you a lot of hints that you need in your life to move on.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you feel about this short breath work?
I wanted to keep going, especially during the breath hold when you said, and breathe again. I thought, no, just, I like it. It's my peaceful space.
Yeah. This is something very particular of the breathing of the Wim Hof method, the breath, where you can extend your breath holds for a minute, 2 minutes
Yeah,
sometimes,
you can.
and it's good to pause, to have that long pause in your body. So yes, so it's a very cool practice. Give it a try if you haven't done it, and if you've done it, do it on a daily basis and see the changes that will happen in your life.
And talking about daily basis, what do you think is an easy way to get into more cold exposure? Because not everybody is going to have an access to an ice bath every day.
Yeah.
How about a cold shower? What would be a very practical tool that very busy professional who are traveling, jet lags, how can they incorporate the benefit of cold exposure into their lives?
Yeah, cold exposure. So as soon as the water after your shower is like 18 degrees Celsius or less, there are many studies that shown that this like triggers strong vasoconstriction and a strong release of dopamine, and it's a good shock for your cardiovascular system. I would say 30 seconds of cold shower at the end, or a whole cold shower is okay. Don't regulate your breathing as well. Like don't go into the shower and make this like, right? Just long exhalation. And you will have like a decent shock that will give you all the benefits of energy, dopamine, and all this stuff. Ice baths as well. There are so many studies nowadays. Before, when I started, there was none, just the Wim Hof ones. And a few says that if you do something like 11 minutes, like on a weekly basis, in different like doses, I would say 3 times per week, 11 minutes. This is the maximum benefits with the minimum immersion, or the
Okay.
optimal one. For me, I would say that once a week, because it's difficult to get it. If you do it at least once a week, it's a really good practice. Let's say every Saturday, every Sunday, to close a week or to start the week and think about things that happen or the things you want to achieve in a way. And it's also very, very cool. There is one of the studies of the Wim Hof particularly that says that if you do the breath work and an ice bath in half an hour, if you do the breathing and then the ice bath, you get anti-inflammatory proteins running through your body for 6 days in a row, like much more than an average human, right?
Mm.
So you have less inflammation in your bloodstream if you do the breathing and an ice bath for 6 days in a row compared to normal humans. So also once a week, it's okay. But I will tell you something. This is a story from a friend I know that she was with arthritis for many years. She attended the workshop, and then I saw her later, in a week later or so, and she told me, "Man, I've been doing the breathing every day and taking cold shower, Mexico City cold, not that cold, and I haven't got the pain back into my joints, a tiny one, because it you won't cure it in a way, like you will suppress the symptoms." And this has been like a life-changing thing, like just doing the breathing and taking a cold shower. And a year later, I saw her again, and she told me, "Man, the joints are okay." Normally, when winter is coming and the dry weather of winter Mexico City, it always hits me in a way. And I was afraid that was going to trigger again, and it didn't happen, just by doing the breathing every day and doing the cold shower. So it's a powerful practice, like you don't need to jump into an ice bath. I know it's cool. I know it feels amazing, but there are many ways to practice cold exposure. Also, like running with in cold weather, like 10 degrees or 5 degrees in shorts with a t-shirt, and you move and you breathe and stuff. And it's okay to feel the cold for half an hour, for an hour. And then you get back into home and take a warm shower, for example, and you've been 1 hour into cold and not covering yourself, afraid of getting sick, So yeah, there are so many ways to expose yourself to cold, and take advantage of cold. Don't be afraid of it. It's so good.
Well, I'll tell you that ever since I've met you and we did this initiation, it really has changed my perception to traveling as well, because there are a lot of things that I wouldn't have done if it wasn't for the fact that I did my Wim Hof fundamentals with you. I recently traveled to South Africa in peak winter, and it's really cold. The sea is actually really cold. But because I do my regular cold exposure and my ice bath and my cold shower, I could enjoy it. And I would have never done it otherwise. And, I
Mm,
recently traveled to the Channel Islands, and again, cold sea, not as
nice.
cold as South Africa, but you get the opportunity to enjoy it. Winters in France, you can also go and have natural. And I think that's another thing to talk about. A lot of people go to Portugal, for example, and say the sea is too cold, but it's natural cold exposure.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing will beat like natural cold exposure. I need to say this. Just be aware, because you are in the wild sometimes. You have some water current, you have some waves. You need to have everything to get warm again, some towels, some dry clothes. And whenever you practice this in nature, you need to dry yourself first and then put the warm clothes and then move. Just walk or move a bit in a slow way, not too fast. But I say that my deepest transformational cold experiences have been into the cold sea, into rivers, into lakes inside of volcanoes, and I felt and seeing God in a way, when I am there, and it's just beautiful, like take advantage if you live in a cold place, and connect with nature, and where water is flowing in the sea or in a river, you also get a lot of release of free radicals too, in a way, because of the water current. It's also very very healing. This is one of the things that is like in Lourdes in France. This is one of the things that happens as well. It's cold. It's a shock. It's a shock for all your systems, and you don't get back like as normal. Like it's something that your body has never experienced in a way,
It's true.
and it's magical. It's mystical. It's something we sometimes we can explain. And I love this stuff that we can explain.
Well, I can tell you, JP, that if it wasn't for you and everything that I learned from you, I wouldn't have enjoyed my swims in Finland in winter.
Nice.
So,
Cool.
surrounded by ice, if you told me a few years back that I would have done that, I would not have believed you. So I have you to thank for.
Nice. It's good to hear this. Like so many things happen after these experiences, and I'm very very honored to hear these stories from your side. Thank you so much, Elaine.
Oh, thank you to you. I have an observation, and I would love your thoughts. And one last question, if that's okay. I've noticed that ever since I've been doing cold exposure and ice bath and cold showers, I'm also more resilient to really hot. So what I mean by that is by doing more cold exposure, I've increased my endurance in the sauna. I don't know if I can use the word endurance, but I used to really struggle in a sauna. I felt quite claustrophobic, feel overheated, and I was the kind of person that would walk away after 4 minutes. And now I can
Mhm.
easily relax and stay longer and stay calmer and breathe through it and do very long sauna, especially dry sauna or traditional sauna or infrared sauna. And this has evolved in parallel to my cold exposure. So I wondered if you have any observation on that.
Yeah, I mean, also, do you practice sauna regularly?
I do. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's cold is one extreme and heat is the other extreme. And your body adapts to both sides by moving the warm blood into your skin or into your vital organs. So even, for example, when you do a cold bath, I've done one this morning. the weather here is super cold in Mexico. Not super cold, but for summer. Nowadays it's 18 degrees in summer. It's crazy. And I jumped into the ice bath probably 2 hours and a half ago, and my body was cold outside, but then it pumps like the warm blood outside, and now I'm kind of sweating a bit.
Right.
So
Yes.
when you create this down regulation on your body temperature, and thermogenesis like start to get back into balance, you get also a little like peak of heat too, and then get back. And it's the same in the sauna. Like you upregulate the temperature and then you downregulate again and get into balance. So what you are doing in your practices, in your daily practices or weekly practices, is sending your body into an extreme and then getting back into balance, into cold, into heat. So after you've been into for 20 minutes into an 80 or 100 degrees Celsius sauna, and then you get back, whenever you are in 45 or 40 or 40 degrees Celsius, you're okay because you've been into stronger ambiences and places. So you are like training your body to those extremes, and what's usually cold for you or warm for you is not anymore. So you
Right.
enjoy it more in a way.
It's
And
true.
yes, I'm the same. Like I like it. I like to sweat. I love to sweat.
Because I'll tell you, I don't know if you remember, but we did a Temazcal together, and I really
Oh
struggled.
yes.
You remember how hard it was for me? I believe that I nearly left before or just before I asked to be sat next to the exit door because I was quite big, and I did it and I completed it, but it was really hard. And you helped me. I remember you helped me with my breath, and you looked at me and reassured me. But I have to confess, it was a real challenge for me. In fact, the Temazcal was harder for me than the ice
Of the
bath.
ice bath.
Way
It's
harder.
true. Temazcal, for those who are listening, is a sweat lodge.
Oh
It's
yes, I didn't
Toltec
expect.
tradition. It's a little cave, like made by an instructor by wood, sometimes by earth, and it's also like dark. It says that it's like a tradition that going back into your mother's womb, and we set up fire with volcanic stones until the stones get red, and you have 9 steps between that fire that represents the 9 months that your body took inside your mother into the center of the Temazcal, this round shape like an igloo. And then we put those hot stones, like literally red stones, volcanic stones, with water. We close the igloo, and all that steam like heats up the place and sends your body into a natural sauna steam room, more or less, dark as well, which could be hardcore too, and maintain like that relaxed state while breathing too, like with long exhalations. It's a very cool practice in healing too, and this is very interesting that many tribes, human tribes, were doing this. They didn't communicate in a way. Like Toltecs didn't have a way to communicate with the Nordics, and they were doing the same stuff, like warming up stones and getting into warmth to send the body into that direction. But yes, Temazcal is beautiful experience. I try to do it once a week, pardon, once a month. Once a
Well,
month it's a place where I reflect, where I connect with other humans, where my voice can be listened, where I can listen to other voices, where you have no faces too, like so you can like sing or tell whatever you're facing, express yourself and just like connect in a way. It's beautiful. Temazcal. Yeah.
I really want to do it again now that I've built more resiliency and I have 4 years of training. Then I want to do it again.
Yeah, you
Have
need to
a
come
different
back. You need to come
experience.
back to Mexico.
I will. Well, JP, I wanted to ask you one last question, if we can. I know that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know Wim Hof very well, and
Mhm.
quite amazing to hear all your adventures and stories with him around the world. Can you share some insights into what it's like to actually meet the man behind the legend?
Well, it's. I'm going to start the first time I met him, right? And this was very interesting because I was like, this man saved my life. I was very thankful to his curiosity, to his charisma, to his presence. And I took the training, the instructor training program, and that started with 2 days in LA. And he was there. So I get into him and I say like, hey man, like I'm from Pablo, I'm from Mexico, and I have Lyme disease, and you healed me in a way, and I want to thank you. And then he says like something like, I didn't do nothing, like, and in Spanish, like he talked to me in Spanish. I didn't do nothing, you did it yourself. And I was like, fuck, this is a good kind of teacher, And then he looked at my eyes, and Wim Hof has a very strong like sight. Like he has like a very deep way to see your soul, in a way. And he looks at me. He says like, "Vamos a hacer una revolución," like we're to make a revolution. And I was like, my whole body went just like back, like a surprise effect of wow, like, oh, this is something that no one have told me before, like in any job or in any boss I had. Like Wim Hof is not a boss either, but no one had told me that we were going to make a revolution. In 2017, like cold exposure or breathing wasn't huge, it was just a few crazy people, and now it's true, this is becoming something.
JP, I would like for you to share one encouraging word for our audience that may be experiencing cold exposure, and also for you to let us know how they can connect to your world.
Cool. Thank you so much, Arlene. It was a beautiful podcast and conversation. So one of the things that I really like to expose and to put into the table, I would say, is that we don't need to get into a state that push us to make changes. Don't wait to be sick, to be out of balance. Try to incorporate daily habits, like very simple ones, to strengthen yourself and be with better attitude and more strength and more energy and more presence with the ones around you, your beloved family, your beloved colleagues, and everyone you interact with. And we really need this, to thrive as humanity, to be less in chaos and more in peace. Peace is always there waiting for us to be found, and there are always ways to do it. So incorporate daily practices and become more aware of your breath or your breathing, and you will see changes. Thank you so much, Helen. And you can find me in my social media. My Instagram is the one I use the most. It's called El Señor de los Hielos, the Lord of the Ice, Juan Pablo, LSSR de los Hielos. You will see it over there in the podcast. So thank you again so much, and I hope to see you soon.
See you soon for a temazcal and for an ice bath.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you for spending your time with me today and listening to this episode. Remember to subscribe so that you can receive weekly updates. And if today's message resonated with you, please remember to share it with a friend, a colleague, or a loved one who could really benefit from this episode.